Okay, so obviously this is not a video of me riding in the fucking Hellcat. So if you clicked on this video thinking you're gonna get a first-person ride experience, that's not what this is. Why? Because I didn't want to pull out the phone in the moment. I wanted to enjoy the moment. That's why I didn't record it. The last time that I recorded me in a car doing a little ride along, it was in my friend's car a couple years ago, and the reason why I was filming that is because I built that engine. So that was like a review of my work type deal. You know, that's the reason why I did that. This is a fucking Hellcat. I've got nothing to do with that car. The ride up was offered, opportunity was offered. So I took it. Of course, why the fuck would I not want to ride in a Hellcat? And I was stupid not to. So, do you want to ride? Yes, I do. I didn't ask for one. I was going to be all about my business. But when the opportunity arose, why the fuck would I not? So, as I was thinking about it, I was like, I wasn't gonna say anything at first besides just posting a picture on Instagram, but I was like, you know what, that's worthy of talking about for a few minutes. So that's what I'm gonna do, because it kind of made me realize a couple things. One, okay, so the first thing out the box is that car rips. It's fun. It is very fast. And also, of course, just like I have a pretty good idea of predicting numbers, like on for based on builds and stuff for the dyno. I can generally have a really good idea of what power you're gonna make. Also, like when it comes to my butt dyno of like how fast this car is compared to that car, my butt dyno reads kind of good. Same thing like with my Mustang GT that I had, that the new Edge, that 2001, that when I first got it, it had a misfire, right? And I could say, I was like, oh wow, this is slower than the SI, the Tension SI, which mind you is a slow car. So I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks, but whatever. I didn't get the Mustang for it to be fast. I got one because I've always wanted one, and it was kind of a cool car. After driving around it a very little amount, because I didn't spend that much time on the road with it, I realized that I wasn't liking the car very much. Maybe I had the AC was a big issue, but it wasn't very comfortable. And I know I'm kind of getting sidetracked here. I'm just trying to explain something. It's pertinent. So I wanted to get rid of the car. When I got rid of the car, I went to a friend, and he fixed it up, got everything running right again. Now apparently the car was cammed out and had some work done. Like, it definitely had exhaust done to it, but it had like a Bama Tune sticker on it. So the car had some work done to it. So I'm like, well, if it's cammed out, so it was lubing really hard, not because of the misfire, but because it was cammed out. So I'm like, well, I definitely want to ride it again, because I want to see, with it running properly, where it's at, So we bring it back around, and I ride it again, and homeboy rips it, and I'm like, okay. Yes, I'm still faster. Oh no, it's not. Okay. So we all wound up doing a little race later on. It was stupid because it was in the rain, and I wound up pulling back. So of course I got stomped, because as soon as I went to go punch it, I'm like, I'm not, like, if you maybe you heard me mention before that the SI is kind of squirrely over 95 miles an hour. So it's already a squirrely car on stock suspension, so stock ride height, and it's in the rain. So I immediately pulled off. But later on down the line, we got back to the road where we were just doing it. We could do a 20 roll, and it was in a place that it was dry. So when we did that, the SI walked away. It was a car and change in front. And then of course the excuses abound when people lose races instead of just taking their L properly. They're like, oh, I was spinning. Okay, so if you were spinning and you were faster, then when you caught traction, you should have caught up, but you didn't. You stayed where you were at. So that's why. Anyway, it is what it is. On a roll race, it's kind of hard to fuck that up. The car pulled ahead by a whole car. So it goes to say that my butt dyno is generally also pretty good for speed. Like if I feel top speed for this car, and I feel top performance for this car, and I feel the top performance for that car, generally speaking, I get an idea of where it's at. Now, this is why I say it's pertinent, because this goes to like how I felt about the Hellcat. What does my butt dyno say about the Hellcat? The butt dyno says it's a very fast car. It is a very fast car. But if you watch that old video that I'm going to link in the for the Honda ride along, the Honda, when I rode along in that car at the time, was making around 450 horsepower. That car scared the shit out of me. It scared the fuck out of me. The Hellcat didn't scare me. The Hellcat was very fun, but there was never a point where I was like, oh God, like, please stop this thing. Now, to be fair, also there's a big difference that that day that I rode in the Honda, there was a very clear stopping point ahead. There was a stop sign at the end of the block, and I was like, we need to stop by that stop sign, and I wasn't 100% confident we were going to be able to. That's why I was very nervous. Now, My ride along in a Hellcat, we were on a very long stretch of road late at night, so I wasn't really, I wasn't really worried that we were going to have any problem stopping when the time needed to come. So that may have played into some of my fear, a very clear stopping point that I didn't think we were going to be able to versus an open road with no traffic. Now, so there's that, but also knowing that a 400 plus horsepower Honda is in the same power range, or is in the same a 400 plus horsepower car in a 400 horsepower plus Civic, it will be as fast or faster than a Hellcat, a stock Hellcat, because this Hellcat was stock, right? But I will say that the Hellcat, it hits very differently because that low end torque, it feels very different than a Honda, and it's a good feeling. It's like it's a fucking good little rumble along. So it's definitely nice, and the fact is, of course, you're driving a stock car that has all the factory amenities versus driving something that you've worked over to get that. So I guess comfort level, the Hellcat is great, and that's what I'm looking for a daily. I'm looking for something that I can just drive that I don't have to really do anything to. That's a lot of fun, and the Hellcat meets that. But of course, the Hellcat is way above my price range right now. It actually turns out again that he initially was paying like $900 something a month when he first got the car. After he refinanced, I think he's down to, I think he said around like or no, I think it may have been, I'm sorry, I think he was paying higher than that, and he refinanced it down to like 900 something or 800 something, around that range. And I was like, well, guess how much I'm paying for the SI? He's like, well, how much? I was like, I'm paying $587. He's like, Jesus, a couple $100 you have a Hellcat. But that's the difference between having shit credit. Like, I have the money to pay, but I don't have the credit. So because of the fact that he's paying that, now imagine with my shit credit, how much higher would it actually be? So there's the biggest thing that's keeping me away from driving the cars I would really like to drive is not having the money to make the payments. Is the fact that my credit's so jacked up that even though I could, make the payments, it would be so unfairly high from the interest that it wouldn't be worthwhile. So it's kind of making me rethink a couple things. So the main reason why I wanted to make this video isn't really to talk about how fast or great the car was, and it's a great car, but I know, like, again, a 400 horsepower Honda usually is right around the same power. Like, you can expect the same performance side by side with the Hellcat. A 500 horsepower Honda beats the stock Hellcat for sure. But the two takeaways I had, the major takeaway is I definitely have to consider how much power I'm going to be getting for whatever the daily driver is going to be, because I have a tendency to use that power quite frequently. All right. My cruising speed. Okay. So the majority of my time in my driving time is on the highway, is on the turnpike. There's not really too many places I go in town. Like, I work all week, so, and those are long hours. So I do not leave my house except to pick up my kids down the street, come back, and then go to work and come back from work. I don't go anywhere else. Also, the weekends, I'm usually busy at home, so I tend not to go anywhere else, especially now that my wife doesn't have a car that I'm willing to get inside of because reasons. I don't really go anywhere. And usually, normally before, if we had places to go, or if we were just going to bullshit, we would go in my wife's car, so I wouldn't be driving. So the fact is, I spend most of my time on the highway. So also the fact is that most of my time is spent cruising, because my cruise control is set at 88 miles an hour. So I tend to go fairly quickly when I drive. And if people start to get in the way, I'm going through it and accelerating at much higher rates of speed to get through this shit. And like I said, I use this. I use all my fucking power, and it's seeing over 100 miles an hour on a regular isn't something that's uncommon for me. When I get off the turnpike and I'm onto the main road, going to work between the turnpike and work, the rev range gets utilized. I'm tapping out the tack on the regular. I wind the gears all the way out. Man. So then it got me thinking, like, holy fuck, this is what I'm doing, and it's like 180 horsepower car. Like, what am I doing with a fucking 600 horsepower car? Like, and then he even talked about when he first got it, how he had to get used to it because the car is a little squirrely, and like got out on him on the rear end. And I'm like, yeah, that's another thing too to consider, that I'm not very used to driving rear-wheel drive. In my few experiences driving it, I did have that issue where the ass end would kick out on me. So these are definitely things I have to consider, like how much power I really want, because this power is definitely something I'm going to use, and I don't want this to get me in too much trouble or to get me in a bad spot. And then, of course, so when it comes to me building a fast car as a daily, it's definitely not going to happen, you know. And it's weird because any car I would have built before, I would have daily drove. Like I built that 400 horsepower Del Sol, I daily drove it for years. So whatever Honda I get now or whatever Honda that wind up, whichever project car I finish first, it's going to be high powered. It's not going to be driven on a regular, just for so many reasons. One, you know, comfort and comfort is the biggest one, and the AC and all that shit, which I'm not going to have in whatever car I'm modifying. So yeah, I guess that when I get that, whenever I get my project car done, it's just going to be, I'll take it out a couple times and have fun with it. But it's mainly just for dyno numbers, guys. That's why, another reason why I don't stress on finishing my car, you know, because it's why, just to prove to you guys the dyno number that I can build a fast car. I know I can build a fast car. I built them before I was doing YouTube. And since I've been doing YouTube, I'm focusing on building engines for other people. And I've already got results back there too. So it's not like I don't already have proof of what I can do. So why the fuck do I need to spend my time, which is super valuable to me, and my money, also super valuable to me, to finish a car that is just gonna stay parked for the most part? I mean, I start it up every once in a while to go to like an event, because I'm not taking it to the race hangouts, guys. I don't know if you've noticed too that I've strayed far away from street racing. Like my street racing roots where I started, that's not me anymore, guys. I don't know when exactly that happened, but as I got older and I just realized that it's not worth fucking with. Like that shit's not worth doing. It's not worth losing your car for. If you have a family and you got responsibilities, if you got a car that you really spent time on building, you don't want to be going out to these hangouts and shit. So the only time I see me going out to an event with the car is if it's like somewhere in Florida, like Bradenton, Orlando, West Palm Beach, and I'm gonna go out and it's gonna get parked. Because eventually the whole idea is to build an actual race car, so that car will be going to competitions to race. But I still got to finish whatever turbo project I'm doing first before I start looking to spend money on the NA build, because that's how I want to compete, is NA K series. So yeah, man, it's just I had to start really thinking about like how I'm gonna actually use that kind of power, you know, and just my overall takeaway and opinion on it. You know, the Hellcat's great. Also, you know, another thing too, like this was a Hellcat Charger, not a Challenger, right? So it was automatic, and I'm pretty sure Homeboy was, you know, tipping the fuck, because he mentioned what gear he started in, so I know he was using the Shiftronic thing. And so here's my opinion on automatic in general, and I've talked about it before on the channel. I hate it. I won't fuck with it. I will never build an automatic car. Mark my fucking words on that. I will never build one. I'm not against driving them now so much as I used to be. I used to always say that I would never pay to drive an automatic car. And then over the years, my stance has changed. There are a few cars I would make that exception for, like a GTR. Originally, I wouldn't have fucked with it, but I will fuck with a GTR. I will drive an automatic GTR. The Charger, even before I, you know, got the ride along in the car, I like the way the car looks. It's a sedan. It's practical. I'm pretty sure it's lighter than a Challenger. I would drive the Charger Hellcat. I would definitely do that. And now after driving in it, I would definitely do that. And of course, there's other various supercars that only come automatic, so you don't really have a choice. And I would, you know, I guess I could see me driving those as well. I will always prefer a manual car to an automatic, because I don't give a fuck how fast these automatic transmissions get. It's there's two things that bug me on them. One is that you will never be able to have the exact same reaction time as you reaching down and grabbing a stick versus the automatic transmission. And two, I just can't get used to this paddle thing. I can't. Like the throws are too short. It's the clicks. It would take a lot of training and practice for me to get used to using paddles or bump shifting. And any car that I've ever had that had that in there that I tried to fuck with, it was just so weird that I left it be. Like I'm just not doing it. There ain't gonna be no manual mode for this car for me. I'm putting it in automatic and I'm just driving the car. Okay, so that's the reason why I don't want to fuck with that. And I don't want to relearn myself my timing on flapping little fucking plastic paddles. I will drive a manual car because it's a man's car. That's the reason why. So I will never purposely try to buy one. If I ever ball out where I have money, where I'm buying a supercar and I can only get an automatic, then whatever, that's a different case. different scenario, and it'll most likely be for daily driving anyway. So I wouldn't care too much. But if the choice is there, like if I'm going to buy the car and you can have the CVT or you can have this manual transmission, I'm always going to go with the manual transmission. All right. So there's that. And but my final takeaway is from the ride along is that you know, like I said, I'm pretty sure he was bumping it, you know, bumping the shifter, but I didn't really feel that too much. I was, you know, I'm looking straight ahead and I'm just enjoying the moment. And for me, like the shifting in the transmission is so seamless that it didn't feel like it was shifting. It just felt like one continuous power pull. So with that being said, I didn't mind that it was automatic. Like, you know, I just, you know, and I know that the whole thing is, just focus on driving and whatnot. And when you're going in a straight line, being automatic is not a big deal. But when it really matters the most to me is when you're maneuvering. Like if you're maneuvering through traffic, you know, and or like a circle track or, you know, just shit like that, a manual transmission means so much more to be able to 100% control the rev range and the exact timing of everything moving versus an automatic that will naturally want to shift on you. And I don't care about anybody's arguments for the CVT. You can have your opinion on what you like. If you like the CVT because you can't handle driving a manual car, then by all means, you like that. And I'm not going to judge on it. But if you're asking my opinion is I will always choose an actual manual transmission over anything like that. And as long as manual transmissions are offered in cars, that'll be the way I go. There's no excuse in the world that anybody can give to me to tell me why an automatic is better. You know, because a lot of the excuses I've heard from people is, oh, you know, traffic, you know, stop and go. If you're a real driver, if you really, you know, there's people who can drive a manual car competently, and there are people who just live that. And if you live driving a manual car, all those little stop and go and traffic and all that, and being on a hill, all that, you don't notice it. You don't notice it. There's never been a time where I'm like, oh my God, I wish I didn't have to push this fucking clutch pedal. For one, the clutch in that fucking SI is so goddamn feather light. You don't even feel it when you engage the goddamn thing. All right. Like I almost stomped the fucking pedal through the floor several times when I first got the car because I drive semi trucks. That's a heavy clutch, you know? So, there's no excuse in the world that you can give to me to tell me why an automatic transmission. Every time I hear somebody start to give me excuses to why they prefer automatic to whatever reason, I'm like, oh, well, you're just not a great of a driver, because there really is no excuse. If you spend most of your time driving a manual on a regular basis, you don't feel what your legs are doing. You are a machine. You are one with the machine, and you just operate the car. All right, guys. So wow, that wound up being a lot longer than I expected it to be. So story time, I guess. And I'm going to try to get away from doing these things. I'm going to see if I can get back to doing some more techie type uploads. But, you know, it's YouTube and it's my tube. It is what it is here, guys. I talk about whatever the fuck I feel like talking about if I feel like I can make a story out of it. And again, I'm not reaching to make content. I'm not trying to force content. You can see that over the past week or so, I was doing a lot and then it slowed down, you know, and here I am again. So I really just talk about whatever the fuck comes across my mind. If I hear questions from shit or if I experience something and I want to, you know, throw it out there, that's just what it is. So that's it. All right, guys. Social media links in the description down below. Thanks for watching and peace.